Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our last live broadcast here at SIFTD Games at SIFTD.net for 2024. You're actually going to get 2 shows, 1 stream today with our special Monday stream, and alongside me to do that is Matt Keil. Happy holidays to you, Matt Keil.
Yes, I see you wore your Charlie Brown shirt.
Yeah, well, this is, what do they call this? It's not Charlie Brown, it's
actually more
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I am trying to be, like, I have the...
But it's the red...
I'm rocking the green pants today.
Red with the black, like, zigzag is Charlie Brown, although really that was more of a Schroeder.
Yeah, that's a good call. I'm trying to be festive today. I got the red and the green going on. This is a special episode. I saw some people in chat were like, wait a minute, like, why is this happening on Monday? We told you guys last week that this was happening on Monday, but maybe you guys forgot or you quit watching this show before we got to that. I don't know. But we did try to tell you guys that we were doing this show on Monday because it's crazy this week. I get out of here on Thursday. I have so much stuff to do before then.
Christmas being on a Wednesday always makes all bizarre. The timing weird.
It does make it weird, yeah. Because a lot of times we would do this show on Friday and then get it up over the weekend, and then I would leave like the next week. But again, because Christmas
now you don't have enough time to do that because you get there on Christmas Eve.
Yep. I've been scrambling for the last 3 weeks, so I had to bust my butt the week before my mom got here to make sure I had content to run while my mom was here so I could go out and do stuff with her. Then the week while she was here, we did a show, people. And I was like doing a show while my mom is here and I'm going out and showing her LA. And then once she left, I had to start doing it again to get all the content ready for when I leave on this Thursday. I have been on a grind. And in the midst of it all, I got a cold. And I'm now over that. It's been like a day and a half since I felt better from the cold. But I've been grinding through all this while I'm sick. It's been a nightmare. I can't wait for Thursday to get here. But we have an awesome show for you guys today. Now, this is our last stream. This is also our last episode of GameFace, so that's GameFace 416. Now, it's not going to be a usual episode of GameFace. Normally, we have headlines, and then we go and we review a bunch of games. Today's episode is pretty much going to be 100% the Game Awards. Like, there's no reason to do headlines when all the headlines from the week came from the Game Awards. So we're going to walk you through the awards themselves, the show itself. Matt and I will give our impressions of that. Then we'll go through all the reveals, not all of them. I think we have 20 reveals out of the dozens and dozens that were in the show that we're actually going to talk about. Then we'll talk about the awards at the end of GameFace 416. Then we're going to break down for like 5 minutes, and we'll have Christmas music going for you guys. We'll break down for like 5 minutes, and then we'll set up for our SIFTD Game of the Year awards, and then we'll run through those. We have 25 awards this year to give out. And we're going to do all that in 3 hours. We'll see how it goes. Matt and I had an off-camera discussion beforehand. We both know we got to really get through this stuff to get all this stuff done in time. We may go over a little bit, 3 hours, but that is our goal, to have a stream that's the same length we normally have here, but on a Monday instead of a Tuesday. So lots of stuff to get into. Matt, how are you doing now that the holidays are starting to rear their beautiful heads, I guess, as it were?
All right.
Yeah? Are you going to be going to your mom's for holidays?
Oh, I don't give that information out.
Oh, okay. But you'll see family over the holiday.
Family around.
Yeah.
Also, it's LA. No one's from here, so like,
yeah.
People gather anyway.
Yeah, I was driving over here. It's a ghost town already. Literally, there was like no one on the road, and I also came a little earlier today than I usually do.
I think a lot of people went and started their traveling yesterday.
I think they did.
It's because the Wednesday Christmas makes everything weird.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be, a lot of people don't want to be traveling during the week, or like they take the week before off and then they get the week after off. Like most of
it's also anyway. The cost.
Yeah, cost.
Like if you look at flights a curve.
Next weekend are way more because of that. Yeah.
Like I'm flying Thursday because Thursday is the cheapest day to fly. That's why I'm flying on. That's the only reason that I'm flying on Thursday. Like its tickets were like $100 or $200 each way cheaper on Thursday to buy. So I'm leaving on Thursday afternoon or whatever. I get to the East Coast at 1 a.m. Have to then do the whole schlep through the airport, get to the rental car at 2 a.m., and then drive from Washington, D.C., beginning at 2 or 2:30 a.m., up to central Pennsylvania, where I'll get there at like 4 or 5 a.m., which is still only like 2 a.m. our time.
1 or 2 to us.
That's when I'd normally be going to sleep anyway, so it kind of works out. But anyway, I have a crazy week ahead of me.
Are you driving through snow when you do that?
I don't think no, not usually. I mean, if it does snow, then yeah. But I've just been very lucky, and it doesn't happen. But I drove through snow for the first 20 some years of my life, I can still do it. But it does take a little while to learn. It's more about learning what to do when you start sliding. That's the thing. Like most people, if they haven't driven in snow a lot, they'll slam on the brakes. You don't.
You
just keep tapping them. You just keep tapping the brakes, and eventually you'll get control again. But anyway,
pump the brakes and you turn into the skid if you're going to the side.
Yeah, I have lots of experience driving in crappy weather. So,
I've never driven in snow, but I have driven in ice.
Yeah.
And,
oh, really?
Well, not because it wasn't snow. It was just so cold that the rain was freezing.
Yeah.
And it was like the high desert. And luckily, most of it was straight, so it didn't matter. But every once in a while, you'd go over black ice, and you'd feel the car lose that connection, and you just start,
Well, it's kind of like hydroplaning on a really wet highway. Yeah. Same deal. Like, you tap the brakes. If you slam on them, you're going to wreck. Yeah, so it's instinct to slam on the brakes. Yeah. You got to break that, basically.
Luckily, my instinct is never to touch the brakes. So.
Nice. I like that. So anyway.
Go around.
Yep.
Go around, idiot. Come around.
Hopefully you guys are all planning your holiday break or whatever. You're getting ready to see family or friends. I mean, it's also a big deal for me to go home just to see my old friends who I don't really get to see. So I'm excited about that. The other thing I would say I'm excited for is to buy some damn good beer over the holidays, because we put out a call for you guys to donate, buy us a beer for the holidays. And I just want to take a minute. First of all, I'll put the screen up while I'm doing this in case some of you guys are interested. But the response to this last year was amazing, and so far this year has been amazing as well. And I want to specifically thank a handful of people that I've already kind of tracked that gave us significant donations. Toppy, Guinness Knauer, I know I'm misspelling that. Or misspeaking that. I apologize, because I really appreciate what you've done. Derek DeRoches, Christian Villegas, Pavel Kirashenko, Robert Diana, Maria Terashenko. I want to thank all you people for giving us significant donations for the holidays. And these are just people that donated on PayPal. I have to do work to find your donations from via credit card, and I will do that. And when we come back from the holidays, I will be sure to thank everybody who gave us donations via credit card as well. But I just wanted to call that out. And here's a QR code if you feel like giving us some money to buy some beers over the holidays. That would be awesome. We'd really appreciate it. But of course, we don't expect anything, because most of the people who are watching this are already giving us $4 a month as patrons or whatever, and we appreciate you guys very, very much. So I just wanted to call out some people who have given us significant, and I mean significant, donations via donate.sifted.net. And again, when I get back from the holidays, I'll go through all our credit card reports. I'll find the people who donated via credit card, and I will thank you as well. I really, really appreciate it. Obviously, around this time of the year, it makes a big, big difference. I have tons of expenses coming up beyond buying gifts for my myriad nieces and nephews, which I love doing anyway. So that's kind of the lay of the land. As far as what's happening on Sifted over the next 2 weeks or whatever, this show will go up tomorrow, GameFace 416. And then our Game of the Year awards will probably go up on Thursday. A little bit of a gap there as far as the archive is concerned. But we will have episodes of Ask Shane Anything running the whole time I'm gone. We will have episodes of Pactor Factor running the whole time I'm gone, including the Pack Awards for 2024, the second annual Pack Awards. We finally started doing those for the first time last year.
Still won't call them the Packies, huh?
No, man. I asked him what he wanted to call them, and that's what he wanted to call it. It's like I asked him what he wanted to call his show. He's like Pactor Factor.
Well, nobody gets to choose what their awards are called.
Usually not.
The Oscars didn't start as the Oscars. They got nicknamed the Oscars, and then they embraced it. So I think everyone just called them the Packies until he has no choice.
My pitch for Pactor Factor's title was actually called Pack in Business, because he had left and was gone for a while, and then he came back to do our show after doing Pack Attack at Game Trailers for a while. But he's like, nope. He's like, it's called Pactor Factor, or I'm not doing it. And I was like, okay, I guess it's called Pactor Factor. So anyway, hope you guys are excited for the holidays. It's been a crazy year. I think this show and our Game of the Year awards will kind of wrap up the year for you. And you can go on your way and enjoy your holiday and then come back for what is going to be an absolutely incredible 2025. We'll get to our most anticipated games of 2025 at the end of our Game of the Year awards. But I don't know if you went and looked around, Matt, but next year looks awesome.
Well, the first 3 months too.
Yeah,
I mean,
we don't know about the rest.
Don't really know a lot about it.
But even the first 3 months, wow. Like I had a lot of problems trying to pick my most anticipated games for next year. Put it that way. So, and I think also 2024 ended up being I think now that I've kind of looked at it and gone through all this stuff, kind of what we thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. There were moments during the year where I was like, actually, 2024 is not as bad as I thought. But now,
well, it's because there was a lot of good games came out this year.
Yeah,
but not a lot of great games came out this year.
It's true.
It's not a bad year. But there wasn't a whole lot of outstanding stuff that really made you sit up and be like, wow, that's an all-timer right there.
Yeah.
There were a couple, but not many.
Not a lot. Yep. So anyway, before we get going...
And that's mostly just a contrast with 2023, which was full of...
Which was an amazing year. Yeah. It's like on year, off year, on year, off year.
I wouldn't even... I mean, if this is an off year, that's still pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
But like...
I enjoyed the year in games. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you guys will realize that you did too. Once you watch this show and then our Game of the Year awards, I think you guys will see that like it wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought. So it was
also probably not as good as the Game Awards tried to make you think it was. But like,
I mean, that's its job, right?
Right.
And in that case, maybe mission accomplished. So anyway, that's our lay of the land for the rest of the year. I have busted my butt. I really have, to make sure that you guys have content flowing through our Patreon and through SIFTD.net while I'm gone. I hope you guys appreciate it, and I hope you guys like the content. And then a final thing before we get going, if you're a regular user of our website, you probably noticed some issues that sprung up over the weekend. We were doing maintenance like we often do during the weekend, and I've talked earlier this year about how we're in the process of re-platforming the site, because the site was built on technology from 10 years ago and hadn't been touched a whole lot like since then. Little updates here and there, but we hadn't really updated the base core of the website. Well, we've been doing that. And this past weekend, we are fiddling around in there. And unfortunately, there are some pieces of code on the website that are so old that it's almost impossible to work with it now. And what happened was a piece of that code that is unfortunately so outdated that we can't really work with it anymore is some of our comment tech. And long story short, what happened is we have lost the last several weeks of comments on the website, which sucks.
Although the things still say there are comments there.
Right.
But when you look at the page, there's nothing there.
Right, because that data is tied to the piece of content and not to the user. Mm. So you may see that like piece of content say there's comments there, but there aren't. And also you may find that you liked a piece of content before and now you can like it again. So content from that break period from a few weeks ago, you can now like it a second time. It's not going to throw our database out of whack. But anyway, long story short is we lost our comments for all the Game Awards stuff, which sucks. But what sucks the worst is
everybody go have your arguments again.
What do you say?
Everybody go have your arguments again.
Yeah, go relive your arguments all over again. The part that hurts really for me personally is losing the comments on our episodes of GameFace for the last, however many episodes. So that sucks. But I'm just telling you, this is worth it. It may sound crappy. It's worth it because we are creating a foundation upon which we can now build going forward and build very quickly. And so we're going to have some growing pains here and there. This is one of them. The website kind of sat dormant as far as like new features and updates for a while. And now we're kind of paying the price for that a little bit. But honestly, we haven't paid that bad a price. So if you're wondering what happened, that's what happened. But I think it's a little bit of a bump in the road for something that's going to pay huge dividends in 2025. And when we get into 2025, I will start talking a little bit more about what we're going to be doing in the next year. I think it's pretty exciting, and I think you guys are going to like it. So anyway, we'll talk about that when the year turns over. But for now, we still have to put the bow on 2024. And before we do that, and I go to chat and kind of connect with you guys before we get going.
Erebus Jones does point out that calling them the Pakis would not work because that is a slur for Pakistani people in the UK.
Oh, I was not aware of that actually.
I'd definitely heard that before, but like it doesn't really occur to me to say anything bad about Pakistani people.
Yeah, it would never even be like a thing I would do.
I know that word, but that word is just not in the forefront of my mind. I'm when I say that about those awards, I'm more thinking about a Pac-Man reference.
Yeah.
I think usually when you say Pack Attack for Pactor, you're thinking about Pac-Man.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And Erebus Jones also notes that there was no Transformer named Spastic, but one of the Headmaster little robots was named Spasma. Back in the 80s, and I do think they have changed that name in the modern version. I think he's called something else that sort of rhymes with that or something. But yeah, you got to learn. It's the same thing about the Dinobot Slag being called Slug now because Slag is a derogatory term in the UK for women, and
I didn't know that either, actually.
Yeah, slag is basically like horror.
Really?
And you probably don't want a Transformer called that on the shelves. So.
Probably not for a kid's show, that's for sure. So anyway, before we get going and we check in with you guys, just want to remind you that we are supported 100% at patreon.com/sifted. Head over there for just $4 a month. You get all our content early. You get this show 4 days early, Pactor Factor a week early, all our content at least 3 days early. And if you don't have any money, you can help us out with Twitch Prime. If you're watching this show on YouTube, there are step-by-step instructions to how to do that down below. But really, if you've already connected your accounts, it takes 3 seconds to give us $2.50. Just go to twitch.tv/SiftedGames and renew that sub. That would be awesome. And I want to say right now, I just went and checked Apple Podcasts, and I've been asking you guys to review this show for years on all the podcast services. I always say, if you can't afford to help us financially and you don't have Amazon Prime, just review the show or like the show. You guys are not doing it. We only have 92 reviews on Apple Podcasts, and we have hundreds and hundreds of listeners on that service every single week. So please, if you're listening to the show for free, take the minute to review the show. Please, just give us a rating and say, awesome podcast. It can help us so much. Like I say, there's ways that you can help us without money. That's a way to do it. Go do it right now on whatever podcast service you're listening. It makes a difference, people. It can make a huge difference for us. I'm going to push that hardcore in 2025, so you're going to get sick of hearing it, so just go and do it. And before we get going, let's check in with y'all and see how you guys are doing before the holiday start coming up here. Rigor Mortis UK, thank you for Amazon Prime. Oh, so we've got a hype chest. What do we got? A holiday-themed emote.
Screaming reindeer?
That's what it looks like. I'll send it out anyway, though. There you go. Choo-choo. Rigor Mortis, thank you. What else we got in here? John Alexander, 2839, thank you for Twitch Prime. Rigor Mortis, they are not in the database. They are not. I can just tell you. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened. We do not have the backup.
I mean, you got all the other comments back.
We got like literally 99% of our comments back. We lost like a few weeks out of 10 years. So, and trust me, we have done everything in our power to get those few remaining comments back, and it is not happening, brother. I'm just telling you. I'm not going to go into details about it. I'm just telling you it's not happening. Dig the Freddy Krueger vibe, Shane El Guapo 33. Well, just in time for Christmas, Freddy Krueger. I'm invading your holiday dreams. What else we got here? Anything? Hope your transit is better than last time. Me too. Because last time, remember, I got stuck. And I was flying around in circles trying to land for hours last time. Hopefully that does not happen this time. Happy holidays to you, Nightwing 3060. Yeah, your shirt is more like Freddy Krueger, definitely. Rock and Roll 458, thank you for Twitch Prime. Ilya GX, thank you for Twitch Prime. Kits Molcott, thank you for Twitch Prime. Talimper, thank you. Mitchell Ness, thank you. And yeah, we were playing holiday music before the show today. Some people were complaining, but most people were cool with it. So I actually am not a fan of Christmas music at all. My wife starts listening to it like after Thanksgiving, and it drives me bonkers. But this is our last show before the holiday season. I figured I'd play some Christmas music. I know some people do like it a lot. Not me personally, but a lot of people do. So, okay.
It's still paused.
What'd you say?
The chat.
Oh.
Because you scrolled too far up. There you go.
Okay. Keffy Kef, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Thanks for the reminder. No problem.
Feels like Twitch could still improve a few things.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. I don't know if they will. It almost feels like Amazon is starting to like bail a little bit on Twitch.
Feels like Amazon's starting to bail on just about everything.
It does feel that way. That's a good way to put it, actually. So anyway, I think we're ready to get on with GameFace 416. But before we do that, here's
world premiere.
Here's a world premiere from LS Cream.
LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted.
So this is my last chance to remind you that LS Cream is literally one of the best drinks that you can get for the holidays. It mixes with almost anything. You can even mix it up with a little bit of eggnog, and it might actually make the eggnog something you could finally drink for the first time in your life. But you can mix it with so many other things. It goes so great. It's like one of those things that you can sip, and you don't get all crazy drunk, and you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of the family. It is perfect for the holidays. All those drinks that you just saw in that ad, if you show up at a party or at a family gathering and you mix up a round of drinks that look like that and take them out into the party, you're going to be the all-star. Go to creamls.com/sifted. Try to use that URL if you can. You can find out how to get it locally if you just want to swing by and get a bottle on your way to a family gathering. Or if you plan ahead, you have a big party coming, you can figure out how to get it shipped to you. Either way, there is plenty of time for you to find some LS Cream before the holidays and make sure it's a big part of your holiday gathering. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. And thank you, by the way, to LS Cream for sponsoring us throughout 2024. Thanks to all our sponsors that we've had throughout the year. The Shazer Ryan Realty, SoundWizardry.com, all the sneaker stuff that we've worked with, Leather Spa, New York Sneaker Society, Lands of Hyperion. We've had so many sponsors this year, and we are very appreciative for all of them. Thanks to all of them for helping us out in 2024. And with that, it's time to get on with the show. Again, there are no headlines in this week's episode, and I just put up the wrong lower third. We're going to start off with the Game Awards general impressions, and then we'll get to all the reveals, which are all the big games that were shown for the first time. And then to finish off today's show, we will talk about the actual awards. And then to really finish off the show, we're going to share the winners of both the Sifted Fantasy League between Matt and I and the Sifted Fantasy Challenge, which is what you guys all compete in. Although, Matt, did you see how well you did in that?
No.
You finished like 7th. Yeah, but anyway, we'll
better than the other one.
Seriously, we'll talk about the winners of that stuff at the end of the show as well. But first, we're going to talk about the Game Awards 2024. Matt, I think the general consensus that I've seen across the internet is that they were great, and that they fixed a lot of things that people had complained about, and people found it almost seemed like people were struggling to find things to complain about with this year's show.
Oh, I got some things.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I wouldn't say they were great. I think they were good. I think they're still too long. It's still too
3 hours.
Yeah, it's still too obvious that the awards don't actually matter. Because,
Do you think so?
Well, because he's still standing up there reeling off lists of them. Best RPG should be on the stage if you're really trying to convince me this is a... Like, I don't think it's a problem to, like, reel off the best, VTuber or the best creator or, best esports athlete or whatever. Like, sure. Like, just do those off as a sidebar. But Best RPG should be on the stage.
It should be. It's the biggest genre in the industry.
Best action adventure should be on the stage. Like,
Yeah.
like the genre award should be on the stage.
Yeah.
Like, give these people their time.
I did go through and create a log of the Game Awards, all 3 hours of it, every single thing that was shown. And you can see here, Matt, I used all caps to
Also, thank God he was wearing shoes that match his damn suit this year. And the girl, I can't remember the woman who hosts the opening show, like the pre-show.
Yeah, what's her name? I always forget it.
I just said I can't remember.
Because
her
we only ever see her for this.
Only ever see her for
usually.
that. She returns every year from wherever she goes to do this. But at least this year her dress fit and looked pretty good. Maybe she finally got a stylist who cares, or maybe she finally got some input herself on what.
Or maybe she finally put her foot down and was like, "Hey."
That's kind of what I think. Yeah. Hey, maybe I could wear something that fits and
makes me look
good.
decent. Yeah, that's possible.
So kudos on all that. Everybody looked good. That was definitely a step up. The presentation was better. Even the stage looks less ridiculous.
Yep. Agreed. So by my count, there were 18 awards given away in the show, which is pretty good.
18 awards given away in the show.
Some of them were Machine Gun Fire, but I counted them all.
Yeah,
all the awards.
I don't count anything that wasn't on stage with a recipient.
I actually did not specify that. I probably should have in my notes. But I thought that they did a pretty good job of finding a mix between the awards and having people up on stage. And they didn't do there wasn't the walk-off music anymore.
No, they learned not to wrap it up.
Yeah, I feel like they made a lot of good changes.
I appreciate the security in the aisles.
Right.
Nobody got on the stage for one. I mean, I think that they took them a while to figure that one out, but here we are. That's important.
It is,
Like,
yeah.
You know, if that one dude because not the guy who got on stage with the Elden Ring guys and just sort of did the weird Bill Clinton monologue, but the other guy, like the thing at the Summer Games Fest or something, somebody ran up on stage.
Yeah, they did.
Like, Jeff was right there. He could have gotten him.
He could have,
if he wanted to. Like, that's dangerous.
It is.
So good.
Yeah.
They got those dudes. And, like, maybe they're paying attention to who's actually on each team now.
Yeah.
So, you got to pay attention to that, especially in this day and age.
I felt like there was lots of stuff like that. Like, even this, like, he used the Muppets like he always does, but he basically brought the Muppets on to just roast him.
Yeah, the Muppet, it was gratifying to hear Statler and Waldorf say a lot of the things I've been saying about the awards for the last, like, 3 or 4 years. I think
it shows that the show team was self-aware.
They definitely aware, although Statler and Waldorf did not make any layoff jokes.
That's true.
But no, they did. They roasted a lot of the same things, but a lot of those things are still
happening
in the show. But I appreciate that they just let them do their thing through the whole show and had minimal Jeff tries to act with them stuff, which is really the thing that has sunk the Muppets bits.
It has,
if you want to just have Statler and Waldorf come back every year and do running commentary throughout, I think that's a pretty good.
I think that's the winner.
Hook.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's a very fitting thing to put in this show as a regular tradition.
Yeah.
If the Muppets are willing to do it.
Yeah, I think they even found the right way to use the Muppets in this finally.
Yeah, making fun of how ridiculous this is definitely the way to go with it.
Yeah.
And it's more engaging and memorable than like, Animal.
Right.
Like coming up and trying to do a skit with Jeff,
which is just really awkward and weird. And then there was this, like there was the Games for Change award that turns out this
Game Changer was, which they seem to say is going to be an ongoing thing. This was very weird to me because I know he did it as like kind of we're gonna we didn't address the layoff stuff last year, so we are going to address it now. The thing about it is the guy they gave that award to works for Tencent.
Right.
He's a business development director for Tencent.
He's kind of part of the problem.
Basically means he's an exec. They paraded a guy who works for Tencent up, gave him an award in front of a room full of executives and people who A, still have jobs, and B, some of them are the people who laid those developers off.
Right.
So, nice try, but you didn't fool me on this one. And then later they ran an AI trailer for a cat MMO that doesn't exist, run by an NFT crypto bro. That was then, so no, there's still some wrinkles to iron out here.
Looks in our chat like other people figured that out as well.
Yeah,
Rigor Mortis says he knew that the Game Changer was disingenuous. That he worked for Tencent.
100%. Well, because they didn't mention that in the fucking bio about how he lives in charming Farmington, Connecticut with his wife. Oh, and he really wants to be part of the industry. I can't believe I met you. Are in the industry. You work for Tencent. You work for a $500 billion video game publisher. Company, a conglomerate. Like you work for the company that's causing a lot of these layoffs. What the fuck are you doing?
And you're right. Most of the people in that audience are C-level execs.
Yeah.
And they are the ones who are laying these people off. They stand up and give this guy a standing ovation.
Fucking pay attention, people. What is... Come on.
I agree with you.
And look, I think this... he basically created a spreadsheet that people can put their info into and help network. It's like a little mini LinkedIn for game devs that have been laid off. And I think he did... I'm sure he did that with the best of intent. I don't get any kind of malice
He's
from
not
that
malicious,
guy. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's like... really, if this is given the kind of award show that Jeff wants to do here, it's probably better just to not talk about it.
Yeah,
like maybe that I'm sure that doesn't feel good for the people who got laid off and the people who want the problems in the industry. But the point of a show like this is just to talk about how amazing the industry you're celebrating is. The Oscars do it, the Golden Globes do it, the Emmys do it, the Grammys do it. Like they all, you're not going to see. The big problems and the Oscars are not going to address how many people have lost their jobs due to AI and streaming not paying revenue at the Oscars. Like you're not going to see that. So
I definitely.
So maybe it's better just to stay quiet than to open your mouth and look ridiculous.
I think you may be right, and I also agree with you that 3 hours is way too freaking long.
Yeah,
that is insane. I'll say this: the show was good enough this year that it didn't drag like last year.
No, it didn't drag. And to be fair, they hit that 8 p.m. Pacific on the dot. Like that, like they stuck to the rundown.
Yeah.
Like, so well done there. That's hard to do on a long live award show where you're not cutting everybody off, and you gave the winner of last year's Game of the Year award the time to give the speech you cut him off on giving last. Like I appreciated they gave the Larian guy time to like say what he wanted to say before he presented the award. That was a pretty classy move.
I feel like it's kind of there. I feel like the Game Awards are kind of there, Matt. They've kind of finally found it.
I think the bones are built.
Yeah.
I think the bones are in place. It's about fine-tuning now. It's about figuring out kind of the tone you want every time. It's about creating some kind of tradition that isn't like just things people make fun of every year. You know, like there's gonna it's time to like Statler and Waldorf. I think is sort of like a good example of like you have the room now to start doing things that people actually legitimately look forward to seeing in the show every year that are not an award or a commercial.
Yeah.
You know, like some aspects of it. I still believe that if you really want this thing to grow beyond what it is right now, you have to find a host other than Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff,
and maybe after the 10th year, he thinks about that.
I don't think so, because I do believe these are very much in service to his ego.
Maybe.
Because you don't really do what he's done here unless putting yourself in the middle of all of it the way he does and at the forefront of everything, unless that's your goal.
Yeah.
But I do believe Jeff has more or less, no disrespect intended, kind of hit the ceiling of his capability as a host of something like this.
He almost cried several times during this show.
I mean, I don't begrudge him actual enthusiasm for some of this stuff. And like, honestly, the thing where he almost his voice did break on is something I'm like, you know what? That's a pretty fucking exciting thing to announce.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not going to hold that one against him.
Yeah, me either.
Like genuine.
I think it's genuine.
Genuine humanity from someone who's that excited about Okami 2 and the reformation of Clover Studio. Yeah, I'm there with you. Yeah. I get it. 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I really.
And that he's the one who gets to tell everybody about it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I probably don't need to know that you played every single game you just revealed that last summer.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like it's a little name droppy to be doing that shit on stage in front of all these people. But that stuff, no. Like he did get made fun of. I saw about the Okami thing. I'm just like, you know what? No,
that's
wrong. That's legit. Like,
I mean, that's what you
like
want.
More of that from him would make him way more relatable and likable.
Yeah. That's what you want from somebody who's doing a show like this. You want them to be so invested that they get emotional over the game.
Because a lot of times he just gets emotional about all the big names he gets to bring up on stage.
Kojima
but this time you're like, this is a man who just is excited that this company that's made great stuff and is going to make this game he wants to play is excited about. And like, that's great. Like, that's what these things should be.
Yeah.
That really mitigates the commercialism and the cynicism of what these things really are, which is a 3-hour commercial.
And I'll say this, it was clearer to me this year when it was a commercial.
That is true.
Last year, did you notice that sometimes the crowd was clapping through commercials?
Yes.
This time...
also they cut the audience pretty hard, which I don't mind.
I don't
either mic them and make them fully there, or cut them completely, and cutting them completely is a valid choice.
Yeah. I think generally it was pretty damn good, man. Like, it was a good show. And even at 3 hours, like, I didn't feel like it dragged too much. Like,
I don't know if you get this down much more unless you start just running fewer commercials and
then you don't make as much money.
And doing fewer musical acts, basically.
Yeah, which are the highlight, I think.
Which
still.
I don't care about them. I like the orchestral stuff.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about the performances.
21 Pilots or whatever.
No, and all that. I mean, I did like Snoop Dogg coming out and doing like a sort of cleaned up version of Gin and Juice, but not really. It was like the weirdest radio
it was a little
edit
awkward,
I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool to see his son. I'm like, wow.
He's like an adult now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they're also they're both huge men, and like you see all the other people come up, and it's like, oh, the normal sized people look like tiny. It was like seeing a bunch of dwarfs meet like normal humans when they came up to that.
Yeah.
Same with Troy Baker up on stage with Todd and Harrison Ford. Getting Harrison Ford out there is probably the biggest coup of the whole thing.
Huge.
Near the end, before the Game of the Year award was given, the announcer said, like, coming up, the most prestigious thing awarded on the stage tonight. And I'm like, no, the most prestigious thing awarded on the stage tonight was when Harrison Ford told Troy Baker he did a good job.
Yeah.
Like that was the biggest honor given that whole night was because Harrison Ford is very protective of that role.
He is.
And the fact that he was like, I should have done it myself. It was just like, and I know Troy well enough to know that like that meant something. That was one of the highlights of his life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mike's Q reminds us that her name is Sydney Goodman. So
Sydney Goodman,
just so you know, the host that does the pre-show and everything, Sydney Goodman, and she does a good job.
She does.
She's good talent.
She does a good job, and she's what was the thing I was saying? Like I think they did give her better jokes this year.
Yeah.
And there was something she was like kind of reacting a little bit to the audience and responding to things, and like it felt way more natural than like. It felt like she had a room to maneuver in a way that she maybe didn't have permission to before.
Yeah.
And it felt a lot less strict. It felt like she wasn't just up there doing a job and hoping not to get fired. It felt like she was able to be. It felt like maybe Jeff or someone or whoever was directing. It felt like someone had given her a little ownership of the broadcast,
like, you be you.
The presentation. Be yourself and do what you want to do and make it a thing. And I think that pretty well worked this time. And I mean, this is true of the whole show, but like, it didn't feel like she was given a bunch of like cast off, like reveals to kind of muddle their way through. Like the stuff in that opening show was actually some pretty significant stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna get to the reveal here in just a minute. Actually, that's a great segue.
So it felt like she was given better stuff to work with all around, and she took advantage of it.
Yeah. Overall, I thought the show was great. I thought the production was good. I thought there was real emotion involved.
I mean, obviously I have issues with the AI and the we gave a 10-cent employee, but like the overall, it's probably the first one of these broadcasts that I would show to someone who isn't like a hardcore gamer and not feel like I have to give a speech about
right
what
and say, you're gonna see this.
Yeah. We've come a long way from the guy in the Razor suit.
Yeah, I mean, we've come a long way from the Spike VGAs. I mean, honestly.
Well, there was a guy on Reset Era. Somebody did a thread that was a big like play by play like reliving of the VGX thing with Joel McHale.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
When they did it in the basement the one year.
Yeah, that was a. Because that's the one thing I have like where I'm like, if you're talking about finding a host other than Jeff to replace Jeff. Like, you got to be real careful.
But then you remember that.
Because then you remember that, and you're like, well, like...
Wait a minute.
But I mean, look, I'm not saying, like, someone edges Jeff out of his own thing and forces some other... I mean, Jeff handpicks someone to be his successor.
Yeah.
Like, because he wouldn't pick Joel McHale after that. We know that, right?
Yep.
Like, there's definitely... It doesn't have to be a celebrity. It doesn't have to be someone everybody knows. It doesn't have to be a stunt.
And I thought Joel was a good pick before I
I would have thought... Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a great show. Like, the two of them together, you got kind of like Jeff as the straight man and kind of the more, like, business-like guy. And then you got... Nope. Joel did not show up to do anything of use to Jeff that year.
You can hear I'm still getting over being sick a little bit. But, yeah, it's that was one of the worst decisions
That
ever.
was rough.
And at the time, I was like, okay, like I think that might work. It did not.
On paper, that was a good call. In practice, it
definitely not. Yep, that's how it works sometimes, though. Like the best laid plans, as they say.
I felt real sorry for Jeff that year.
Yeah,
like you're watching a man on live broadcast who just could not do anything about the situation.
He had just kind of gone through the whole Dorito Pope thing,
right, and all that, and it was a big transition from like being on broadcast and because Spike TV was a lot more behind it before that and all that. And you understand why he then just said,
like,
no,
you know what?
He just Thanos'd it and was like, fine, I'll do it myself.
Snaps the fingers. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I think most people agree that the show was pretty damn good.
It was pretty
good.
good.
I didn't find too many people that were like, oh, it's awful like it always is or anything like that. So
at no point did I say, how much longer is this?
Right.
So it's like, well done.
That's a good sign. I mean, that's a good sign. I only a couple times, and again, I was taking notes.
Part of that is because I was actually impressed by all the stuff they were revealing.
Right.
Like there was no stretch of the show for like half an hour where you're showing me mobile like gotcha shit I don't care about.
You're right. Yep.
That only happened one trailer at a time this time.
The reveals definitely floated the show, and we're going to get to those in a minute. Before we do, here's a word from our sponsor, Leather Spa.
Are you struggling to find that holiday gift for the person who has everything? Leather Spa to the rescue. Leather Spa is a go-to resource for discerning clients seeking the finest repair and care needs for their shoes and other leather accessories for more than 30 years. Old clothing has become a global waste problem, and you can do your part by protecting and maintaining items before it's too late. Leather Spa can maintain or repair your leather items, but it also includes water and stain protectors, shampoo and conditioner sets, premium socks, waxes, creams, shoe horns, shoe trees, insoles, and so much more. There's literally something for everyone on your holiday shopping list. Go to shop.leatherspa.com, !CC equals SIFTD to get 20% off through the holidays. Buy someone the gift that keeps on giving, and scratch those hard-to-buy folks off your list. Happy holidays from leatherspa.com.
It's not too late, people, to go to Leather Spa and get yourself some gifts for the important people in your life. Don't forget, Leather Spa is a luxury brand. So anything, any service that you get from Leather Spa, any products that you get from Leather Spa, they are generally top of the line. If there's somebody very special on your holiday shopping list that appreciates the fine things in life, definitely use that URL because you get 20% off any purchase with that URL. And when you're talking about something like this, that is significant. So as I always say, try to support our sponsors if you can, because then they come back if we get sales. So make sure you use that URL whenever you go to buy anything from Leather Spa. And a big thanks to them for their sponsorship during the holiday season. We appreciate it very much. Again, go to shop.leatherspa.com, !CC equals sifted. Use that URL and you'll get 20% off your order. Again, they will repair any leather items, any expensive leather jackets, purses, anything like that. Really nice shoes. And in New York City, they'll come and pick your stuff up and drop it back off when it's done, which is really, really cool. So again, support our sponsors if you can. Leather Spa is an awesome company. They're the parent company of New York Sneaker Society, which also sponsored us throughout this year. So a big thanks to them. I hope they have a great holiday season. And if you shop at Leather Spa, you will too. Okay, it's time to talk about why everybody watches the Game Awards. Let's just be honest. And it's for the reveals. It's become the new E3. And I would argue that the reveals in this show stack up to almost any E3.
Well, one day of E3, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is, like, 1 3-hour show doesn't make up for a three-day industry. I mean, there was nothing from Nintendo here. There was nothing, it's pretty... I've seen that comparison, and, like, I get it. We've been starved a little bit for a while, but give me a fucking break. Like,
yeah,
we've been to those E3s, and it was 10 times this.
Yeah, because you'd have like 3 or 4 pressers, and each one would generally have this much big stuff in it.
And then you come out, and like people would be like on the phone with you, like, "Did you hear the thing?" No, I was in the this happened, this happened, this happened. You know, you're talking about and at the end for the the best of show, you're like narrowing it down from like 50 things.
Yeah.
But this is the first time the Game Awards have had reveals that I would say are
quality,
best of E3 quality,
top shelf.
Like this, like clearly there's nowhere else to premiere these things.
Because remember, I mentioned that Naughty Dog,
and at least now we know why the Elden Ring DLC was eligible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, remember, like last week or the week before, I mentioned that maybe we'll see Naughty Dog's new game, and you said no way. Like, there's no way the Game Awards will get something that big. So Jeff did deliver on some big stuff for sure. In the first and the biggest, undoubtedly.
My biggest no way was Switch 2, and sure enough.
Yeah. They did not show anything Nintendo related at all. Like, Nintendo's on like blackout right now, it feels like. But probably the biggest reveal, but maybe not. We'll get to another one right after this. It's also gigantic. But probably the biggest was Naughty Dog's new game, Intergalactic. We thought Naughty Dog's next game was going to be a sword and board fantasy game, which would have been awesome. It's not. It's a sci-fi game that follows a bounty hunter who's been trapped on a planet for hundreds of years. And basically, it sounds like the objective of the game is to try to escape the planet.
Yeah, from what I understand, you're going to be on this planet the whole game. Like, it's not a spacefaring, like...
where you're jumping from planet to planet.
Thing. Yeah. This is you're on the planet.
Yeah.
I believe this may actually be the same game as what that fantasy art we saw.
That was my other question.
Because it looks like I could see that being the same planet and the similar creatures on the planet. I mean, she fights robots at the end of this trailer. But, like, there could be a whole lot of weird shit on that planet.
Yeah,
We don't, especially because it seems like there's a little bit of a mystical or a quantum aspect to this place that, like, no one really knows why people get stuck there or anything like that. So I would imagine that the point of the planet is that they can throw just about anything they want at you.
Yeah,
so we'll
which
see.
is great. I hope that is the case.
Yeah.
I
also appreciate this little flex they do here where she puts her jacket on camera, because that's one of the hardest things to do. Oh, yeah,
clothing. Putting on clothing in a video game.
Insomniac does that a lot, too, in the Spider-Man game. But, like, the thing where she puts her jacket on is, like, that's very
hard.
Her
throwing that shirt onto the bed.
That's tough, too.
There's so much work. People don't realize, and Naughty Dog does this all the time.
And you don't have to care about that. It's obvious, but it makes everything feel very more naturalistic and more like... more like watching people. Yeah. It feels like an actual thing that's happening.
It's also a clear sign of top shelf craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Where the studio's gone the extra mile to do that, where a lot of studios won't. So,
like I said, the one animator I knew on the first Spider-Man, he said the hardest thing he had to do the whole game was at one point they put him in charge of making sure Dr. Octopus's turtleneck collar didn't clip through anything and turned correctly with him. That was a hard. This is a man who.
It's a horrible job.
This is a man who animated all of Miles Morales' animations and like trick animations. Yeah. And the hardest thing he did was make sure a sweater worked right.
I mean,
it's incredibly difficult.
It is. That's the detail of top shelf game development, though. That's where that extra year and a half, that's where it goes and stuff like that. And it's not just that. There's dozens of things throughout the game that they do that on, and that's what separates a lot of Naughty Dog's games from other developers. They did put out a very brief sort of press-ish thing, and I'll just read it to you very quickly. Jordan A. Munn is a dangerous bounty hunter who ends up stranded on Semperia, a distant planet whose communications with the outside universe went dark hundreds of years ago.
It appears she's going after Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, right. I know, that's hilarious. He's become like a bit of a celebrity lately.
He is everywhere, and he always just kind of plays himself.
He does,
which is
yeah.
interesting. Like, it's always just like, what if Kumail Nanjiani was in Star Wars? Like,
in fact, anyone who's flown to it hoping to unravel its mysterious past was never heard from again. Jordan will have to use all her skills and wits if she hopes to be the first person in over 600 years to leave its orbit. The deepest gameplay, and I also say it's the deepest gameplay in Naughty Dog's history. Which, okay, we'll see what that means ultimately. Lots of people talk about the product.
Also, like, what is that really saying?
Right.
When you think about their history.
They're
not a super deep gameplay
not
company
what they're known
when it really
for,
comes down to it. I mean, Uncharted is not...
It's almost like a wink and a nod a little bit, I think.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot of people are talking about the product placement in the game.
Like, are you saying that, like, we might actually kind of have to be good at this one?
Right.
Like, is this your Dark Souls?
And to be fair, like, if you watch someone who's good at their games, there's a difference.
Oh, sure. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
Yeah.
Like, certainly you can manhandle the combat system in Last of Us Part 2 to make it do good. But you don't have to.
Right.
Like, and that. So I wonder if they're going more on the range of, like, you're gonna gotta learn some shit.
Yeah,
in this one.
which would be great. And this is a very brief clip where we actually see some gameplay.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the first trailer for Intergalactic from Naughty Dog. People talk about the product placement. Not that big a deal.
No, it's fine. If Kojima had done it, you'd call it genius.
Yeah.
So who cares?
There's Adidas, Porsche, Sony in there.
Yeah.
And they make it very obvious to show the logos.
It's a weird, like, alternate universe or something where, like, space travels around and, like, interstellar space travels around in, like, 1986.
Yeah.
But some of the Pet Shop Boys still,
Yeah.
Basically, everything's different except the music,
Yeah.
which is fine. I don't care. Sure. It's 86. Give me the Pet Shop Boys. Give me Slippery When Wet. Like, throw some great stuff in there. I'm fine with that, Neil. I see you. I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's cool.
The trailer could have been a little more exciting, but you brought up
it's-
before we went live that, like, it's kind of like the guitar trailer.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of the guitar trailer for a teaser for
Last of Us Part 2. Yeah.
And, like, all it needs to do is set a tone and give you a flavor, and we'll come back to you in a year
or more.
longer. Yeah.
Get ready to watch that trailer for the next.
He said
2 years here on
He said they've
GameFace.
been working on it since 2020, so maybe it's closer than we think.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting a pre-order down right now.
I mean, I'm thinking 2025 or 2026. I mean, that's how long it takes them to make their games.
I mean, I would say probably 2026, but who knows?
Yeah.
Like,
I hope it's a pleasant surprise.
could be.
We'll see.
The end of 2025 is a big blank spot right now, so that could be in there.
Other than Grand Theft Auto 6.
We hope.
Yeah, we hope. And we'll get to that in a little bit as well. So anyway, there you go. That's Intergalactic from Naughty Dog. Next up, and you can totally debate that this is a bigger deal than Intergalactic. I think it's all up to your opinion. The Witcher 4. And I definitely never thought we would see this.
Is a bigger deal than this.
I really never thought we would see this. I thought The Witcher 4, and it probably is so far away that they shouldn't have shown this trailer.
Well, I said after the show when you were leaving, I said that that the one guy, I can't remember who it was now. It was Schreier. Oh no, was it Schreier? Somebody said there are two things in the show that will make people say holy shit.
Yeah.
And I said I think one of those is The Witcher 4.
Yeah, because that's the only thing I could think of that would make me go holy shit.
And actually, I'm not sure if the other thing he was talking about was Interstellar or the Elden Ring thing.
Intergalactic, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Elden Ring. You're right. There's 3 big ones. Yeah.
All 3 of them are pretty valid.
They all could fit into that description for sure.
But yeah, this I mean, it's certainly, I think in terms of sales, this is the king of all the. This is going to sell more than
because it's multi-platform. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's The Witcher.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate how big this is.
It's gigantic.
This looks. I mean, again. We don't know anything about the game, really. This game's probably... I mean, I'll be happy if we're playing this in 2027.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Apparently this is not real time, but it is rendered in Unreal 5.
That's what they hope the game will
look like this. So
it's like a target render.
It's probably a PS6 game. Let's be honest.
Sadly.
I'll be playing this on a different graphics card than the one I have right now. We all know that. We'll be in a 6000 series by this point. But looks incredible. Looks amazing. Like,
this trailer's great. It really is.
There's two directions you could go with the follow-up to The Witcher 3, and that you could do a prequel 1,000 years earlier where you create your own Witcher in the height of the Witcher existence. Yeah. Or you do a direct sequel and you have Ciri be the main character.
Yeah.
This is certainly, now she's a full Witcher. She's got both the swords. She's got Geralt's sword that he gave her at the end of 3.
Yep.
She's got the Witcher eyes. She's using the potions. She's got that weird chain thing that you can set on fire,
which looks awesome. Really awesome.
It's got the same. It's basically her own version of the trailer where all I see are monsters is the exact same line.
Yeah.
People are mad about it because she's a girl. And they think she's ugly now, which is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, she's older, like she's probably looks like she's maybe about 40. I think it's like 20 years after Witcher 3. But it's like, I'm so tired of it. Same with the girl in Intergalactic. I'm so tired of these people complaining about what these like female characters look like. Where it's like, if you met that woman in real life, that'd be the hottest human being you've ever seen in real life.
Matt, I am only on Blue Sky. I don't go on Twitter anymore. I didn't see any of the horrible things around this game.
It's not just on Blue Sky. It's everywhere. It's on Blue Sky too.
Really? I didn't see any of that.
You. Well, you probably curated your thing a little better. I like to see what the chuds are saying.
Yeah. I was like, it's nice to be someplace where I don't see people acting like idiots.
This looks fantastic.
It really does.
She's also got a lynx medallion, not a wolf medallion.
Right.
So she's the school of the lynx, school of the cat, whatever that is. I don't know what's going on. I'm excited to find out all these weird things and what has happened. How are they going to incorporate the ending where she becomes empress?
Right.
I
don't think so.
I'm curious if they are going to like ask you which ending you got.
I think this trailer tells you what the canon is.
A little bit, but like there are certainly ways she could. I mean, she has gone AWOL before several times. She could just maybe she's supposed to be on the throne and she's just out doing this shit.
Could be, yeah.
She is not someone who would care what her expectations of her are in that regard.
Saber says reading the chuds is free entertainment.
Yeah.
But I thought this looks great. This trailer is amazing. I loved everything about it. I love Ciri. I think Ciri is a great character. I kind of knew if they continued the story, it was going to be her.
Yeah, anyone surprised by this has not played the Witcher
attention.
Games.
Yeah,
that's even Sapkowski, the author of the books, has said she's the main character of the story.
Yeah,
like Geralt is the point of view character, but the Witcher story is about her.
Ciri. Yeah.
And the family unit that Geralt, Yennefer, and her form in the books.
Yeah.
Which is what the Netflix show is mostly about.
And CD Projekt Red has blown this out. They've done interviews with like every outlet. They had a bunch of stuff prepared to talk people through the trailer and show off all the little details that they hid in there. Like, they didn't even let like outlets do it. They're like, nope, we're going to create our own version of this and tell you everything that's in it instead of letting people guess.
Well, if there's anything CD Projekt Red has probably learned in the last several years is control the narrative.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And they put out a press release for this as well. I'll read it very quickly. Ciri, the adopted daughter of Geralt of Rivia, and she takes on a Witcher contract in a remote village that has been terrorized for generations by a fearsome monster demanding human sacrifices. Framed as a short, self-contained Witcher story, the trailer showcases Ciri's new abilities and tools, including a chain and advanced magic powers. At the heart of the trailer is Ciri's perspective as an outsider of the village. As the villagers say goodbye to one of their own, a young girl they are preparing for a ritual, Ciri chooses to intervene, aiming to slay the beast and save the girl at the same time. Ciri finds herself at odds with the prejudices and superstitions of the people she tries to protect. Interesting. Leading her to confront a painful Witcher lesson that monsters come in all forms. And again, there's tons of coverage of this game already. You can find it on SIFTD. We've curated all of it. They really blew it out. And I was surprised by that as well. Like, maybe the CD Projekt Red's turning over a new leaf and how it's going to do things. I don't know, but I agree with you. I think we're not going to see this game for years.
I mean, I would say that Phantom Liberty already shows they did that.
A little bit, yeah.
They learned their lesson from what happened with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it seems that way.
So and anyway, they would be just indescribable idiots if the executives there forced out something equivalent to what happened with Cyberpunk for this, because like that's your breadwinner. That's the Witcher.
Yeah.
Like that's your company's built on the back of that. Like you wouldn't be here without the Witcher.
True.
So you better do this one right.
Kid
I don't
books.
care how long it takes to put it out. Like that thing has to come out that thing has to come out of the gate. It has to be as good as Cyberpunk 2.0 was.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it will be.
Yeah, I think
pretty confident
they've learned their lesson.
Yep. And then the third gigantic reveal at the Game Awards, we teased it a little bit ago, is Elden Ring Nightreign, which is this a Battle Royale-ish
game?
No,
I don't know why people keep saying that.
There's one screenshot that shows like a player kind of being dropped into the battlefield.
No, there is a mechanic where the playable area shrinks over time, but it is a 3-player co-op like roguelike, basically.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah.
But it does incorporate the battle royale idea of like shrinking the play area until you're forced to kind of have this big crescendo at the end of it. But no, it is not a battle royale. It's not 100. It's not 100 tarnished going at each other.
Do you drop into the battlefield like you do in like Fortnite though?
Maybe.
Because
Like
there was a screenshot that shows someone like gliding.
I
Basically,
think you can do that, or that might just be a way to traverse the
Maybe.
area. Because
Yeah.
like they because this thing. I think you are that might be a method of traversal just off a high place, but I wouldn't surprise me if that's how you enter the zone
battlefield.
anyway.
And then they just keep crunching the battlefield down
if
until you're
the
forced to
horse-
fight a boss at the
If
end.
the horse can jump that high,
Right,
you might as well.
I forgot. The horse can jump like a skyscraper high. I forgot
And
about that.
there's Dark Souls bosses in this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so like it's kind of seems like a From Software jamboree.
It
a little
really
bit.
is. What has been the reaction to this online? Because again, I'm kinda
Really
off Twitter
weird and mixed, and there's people that think this is a betrayal of what the game should be, or that From is wasting their time, or they lie, or that he lied about Elden Ring 2, which is this obviously is not Elden Ring 2. It's a side thing.
Yeah, I don't think he lied about it. I think now we know why he said they weren't working on a
Yeah,
sequel to
'cause
Elden Ring.
they're doing this.
This explains it.
There's some hardcore weirdo fans that still hold a grudge against Dark Souls 2 that are mad about this because it's apparently the team that did Dark Souls 2.
Oh.
It's their B team, whatever that means, because
Alright.
pretty much everybody from is a
Yeah, they're all
top-notch.
kind of on an A team. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Nameless King, Dark Souls guy.
Yeah.
I don't
Are you excited for this?
know. I mean, the co-op on these games is not what I'm into. I like prefer playing them without the co-op, without that stuff.
You can play by yourself,
Yeah.
but they said it's going to be really, really hard.
Yeah, which is again not something I'm interested. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of had enough of these.
Yeah.
It looks cool. I mean, it's a cool way to evolve it, I think. Like the directions you could go or to just do again but more, or
Yeah.
like really lean in. I mean, I do know a lot of people that are hardcore From fans who for years have just been asking for a way to play co-op more reliably.
Yeah.
Without kind of the
Having
randomness of it.
yeah, the kind
or
of
having
rigmarole.
or having like, oh, you can only play in this area and then everybody gets desummon, you got to find a way to resummon.
Yeah.
There is a pretty good chunk of the fandom that wants this, that wants a game that's really focused on co-op and focused on kind of the jolly cooperation idea. So I think it's a good move for the most part. It's not really something I'm super interested in.
Yeah, I'm not excited for it, but I'm excited for other people who are into it. Like,
Yeah, like I it makes a lot of sense, especially if From is doing this thing where they're gonna like, it sounds like they're gonna do a thing where they're gonna work on a whole bunch of different stuff and they're gonna like branch out and not try to not be too super predictable.
Yeah.
And this feels like a pretty good first step.
It
there.
does.
I do kind of hope that they make this sort of a celebration of From's everything. Like,
It seems like that's what it is.
Like I'd love to see like Armored Core mechs show
Yeah,
up
yeah.
as bosses or
Yeah,
something.
that'd be
Just
awesome.
just go crazy.
with the DLC and
Yeah.
everything, for sure. Yeah. You can even create packs, like, a pack just for Armored Core or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. The sky's the limit there. So, you start getting into Demon Souls and some of their other stuff. Like,
And it looks like they're expanding on the combat. I mean, Elden Ring definitely had the best combat
Yeah.
of any of those types of games. Maybe I mean, not
Sekiro.
but Sekiro wasn't really
Yeah,
that,
right.
But I'd love to, if they're going to expand that and add the new stuff. I mean, cool. Like,
Sekiro might end up on Game Pass, I just realized
yeah,
this week.
That's true.
It's an Activision game.
We'll see. Yeah, I don't know what the rights are on that, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I can give it a little boost.
Yeah, I will try it. Like, it's not, certainly not going to be my most anticipated game.
It is coming out next year.
Yeah. When was it? Did they say, like, was it March or something? March?
No, they
April?
didn't say.
They
That's
didn't
for
say?
another game that you're thinking of. Split Fiction, I think you're thinking of March.
No, there's a couple things that were March and April.
There are, actually, you're right. There are a couple, yeah.
I just couldn't remember this.
But I don't think they
one.
gave a date yet for Elden Ring. I think
Okay.
they just said just next year. But
I mean, let's be honest, the release date is whenever the hell they want.
pretty much, and people will line up and get it whenever it's ready. Next up, this was another shocker, though, actually. Only because I never really thought Capcom would do it, but Onimusha is being revived.
Yeah, I admit I did not know what this was at first, because I was sitting with my friend watching, and I like to try to call them before.
Of course, yeah.
And like I'm looking at this, I'm like, what is that? And the little orbs are floating around. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And then they get sucked in. I'm like, Onimusha?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like
Mostly because you never dreamed.
No, I would never have thought that. But I thought it was very interesting after the fact that I'm like, apparently the way orbs are sucked into the guy's arm is iconic enough that I remember it 20 years later and instantly knew what it was. So I guess not a bad call bringing this one back.
I mean,
I immediately knew what that was.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if I need to play this, but like, cool.
It seems a little dicey. I don't know how many Fortnite players have ever heard of Onimusha before, but maybe Capcom has just realized that like it's not making games for Fortnite players; it's making games for us.
Yeah, and I think like this leaning into their older IP is. I mean, look, EA could take some notes.
Yeah,
and look, I mean, I'm into it. Like,
how much gorier it is than the original Onimusha games.
I like the idea. And between this and Okami, it kind of feels like maybe that Dino Crisis thing isn't too far off the mark.
Capcom just shared today that there are other franchises that it is already working on.
And how many more can they do before they get to Dino Crisis?
Not many more.
It's like, what are you gonna do now? Chaos Legion remake?
I mean,
before
let's
you do
be honest. They probably should have done Dino Crisis before Onimusha. Even Onimusha back when it was coming out wasn't a crazy.
My only thing
game.
on that would be like, if you're doing Dino Crisis, you got to have that thing spit and polished.
People have been asking for it for so long. Yeah.
The Onimusha expectations are like, oh wow, that's a surprise. That's interesting. Okay, like cool. But if Dino Crisis, everyone's gonna be like magnifying glass out.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to have that right.
This is scheduled for 2026, and the way Capcom described it is a Japanese-inspired dark fantasy game set at the beginning of the Edo period in Kyoto, which has been eerily transformed by clouds of malice. In the game, the samurai protagonist is equipped with the Oni Gauntlet and engages in epic sword battles with the grotesque and otherworldly creatures known as Genma. Capcom hopes that players look forward to the game's exhilarating sword-based combat, in which they can hack and slash through hordes of Genma. There you go.
What was the last one of these? Was that...
Not that long ago. 12 years ago, something like that.
Was it that recent?
Yeah, they did like a little kind of like a spin-off thing not all that long ago.
I remember 3, and I remember the weird little almost Smash Brothers-y one they did.
Right, yeah.
And I don't remember anything after
that.
I
have B-roll actually in our TriCaster for it, but I forget what the title of it is. Maybe someone in chat can refresh our memory. But not a crazy popular franchise when it was out. People liked it. It had fixed camera angles. It was like Resident Evil, like with the sword.
Yeah, I mean, it was big enough that they got Jean Reno.
Yeah.
For the third one.
That's true, yeah. But anyway, that's coming in 2026. They didn't say platforms, but I'm guessing PC, PS5, Xbox Series, maybe Switch 2. We'll see what Switch 2 can run. Still waiting for that information. Next up, what I think probably was your favorite thing of the whole show, maybe? Project Robot?
No,
from Gen Design?
No, Witcher 4 is the best
is
thing
it?
in the show.
This is a close second, I'm guessing?
This doesn't tell me anything. I mean, I'm cool. Like, I'm glad they're all alive
back,
and they're making another game that looks weird and sad with a man in a poncho with strange designs on it
and massive creatures.
I mean, sure, I'm in. You can have my money right now, but I don't know what to say about this.
It does feel a little bit like every game they made all in one.
It does. It's like the guy. He's dressed as Eco. He's climbing like Shadow of the Colossus and tragedy like Last Guardian. I guess is what it got.
Yeah. Very interesting though. This teaser. I mean, if teasers are to pique your
I'll
interest,
play anything Ueda does.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. You just tell me he and these people are making it, and I'm just like, I'll buy it sight unseen. I don't care.
And just so you know, this is made by the same people who made Eco, Shadow of the Colossus. All those games were made by the same group of people. No date for this or anything. They just showed it. And that was it.
Basically just a proof of concept.
It's coming.
Something's
be
happening.
patient. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. But pretty exciting. Like, I kind of wondered, like, are we going to get another game from these people?
Yeah.
But we are. Who knows when, but it is on the way. Cody Carter, thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Appreciate it. Mike's Q calls it the sad climbing boy genre.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
That's pretty funny. But anyway, again, we don't know a lot of information about that. Next up, a game that I mentioned just a second ago, and this game I think looks really awesome. It is Joseph Ferris's new cooperative game. It is called Split Fiction. Also a very clever name that does a great job of describing the game. Basically, it takes two, but like the people are in different settings. One's in sci-fi, one's in fantasy.
They write different settings.
Yeah.
So this is the first game from this company that I think actually looks interesting. I'm not a fan of Ferris's games.
You didn't like It Takes Two?
It was fine.
I loved it.
I thought it was fine. It was that's definitely their best one.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, Brothers was fine. I didn't like A Way Out at all.
That didn't appeal to me.
But this is a much better all around. I think this is a much better idea than any of the others they've ever had. This is like basically
very clever.
Basically, it's these writers that go for like what they think is a writing workshop, but it's an AI bro tech guy who puts them in these bubbles and steals their ideas for his own like AI written novels.
This could really happen someday.
When the one girl realizes what's happening, she tries to resist, and they accidentally push her into the bubble with the blonde girl. So they get two people in the same universe. And the blonde girl writes fantasy, like fan fiction, and the other girl writes sci-fi.
Sci-fi, yeah.
And they don't even know each other, so they have to like get to know each other and get to like each other and figure out. But like the brilliance of the concept here is that like they end up in both like fantasy and sci-fi worlds based on who's kind of controlling the thing, and that means one character is always going to be very genre savvy and the other's not going to know anything. Like there's one shot in here where like the big AI monster robot thing goes, authorization not detected, termination begins, and the fantasy girl goes, why would anyone ever do that? And the other girl goes, they always do that. And it's just like so there's like they're up against tropes in the genre. I mean, it's a really great idea.
This to me kind of has Game of the Year written on it, man.
I'm not gonna go that far.
I mean, I'm gonna tease it right now. Like
maybe for you, but spoilers. I will never give Game of the Year to a game that requires you to play with another person.
Oh, really?
No, never.
Well, It Takes Two was Game of the Year for a lot of folks.
Yeah, that's also ridiculous.
It was pretty good, man. This game looks awesome. This may be the most pleasant surprise from this show to me. Because, again, like I liked It Takes Two. I kind of agree with you with the other games that Hazelight has done, but this looks like their coup de grace.
Well, it's a pleasant surprise that the Hazelight game didn't instantly repulse me.
Yeah.
That is
because one thing I will say, I usually hate their art style.
Yeah. Same.
I love it.
This looks very good visually.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Again, this is called Split Fiction. Again, a very clever name for what the game actually is.
And that giant thing. Man, how annoyed must he have been when that Fable trailer ran?
Right.
Hey, that's our thing.
Yeah. And this game is coming out March 6th of 2025.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Here's our game. Come play
See you in 3 months.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I can't believe they got this done already after It Takes Two.
Well, they for all his irritating personality traits on the Game Awards shows every year, he does seem to run a pretty
He delivers,
efficient ship.
man.
Yeah.
Yep. He gets the shit done. I think the game looks awesome.
Like it sounds like as much of a kind of a blowhard as he seems, it sounds like he backs all his shit up with actual results and know-how. So
I like people like that. Yep. So anyway, that Split Fiction is coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series March 6th.
Yeah, that's a way more interesting aspect of his personality than the fact that he says fuck a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of someone who also says fuck a lot.
I mean, I just think it's almost like an ESL thing where he's like, oh, I swore and now I'm a celebrity because I swore. So now every time I go on camera, I need to swear excessively.
Well, I think he knows what he's doing for the most part.
Yeah.
It's just sort of... And he did tone that down this year, I think.
I mean, he swore a lot.
He did, but it didn't feel quite as
forced.
It's just it felt like someone talking more than someone talking at you.
Yeah.
And I don't, I can't imagine that. He's just kind of learning how to do it maybe better.
Yeah.
He's less of a shock jock and more of a also because he had something to sell. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Next up, the game that made Jeff Keighley cry.
Yeah.
Okami 2. Were you surprised by this?
Yeah, I will admit. I mean, I was mostly surprised in this. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that someone tried to do an Okami 2. It does surprise me that they basically reformed Clover Studios. The other thing about
why did they rename it, though? I don't understand why they were forced to do that.
Clovers.
Yeah.
Probably because they didn't want to, make a maybe it's a good luck, bad luck thing. I don't know.
Maybe with Clover.
I mean, I imagine that with working with Capcom again, you could call it whatever you want.
Yeah, you'd think.
It could be a legal thing, could be whatever. Who knows?
Trademarks or something.
But at any rate, awesome. The other thing that this made me realize, because I don't know if you saw this, but as soon as this happened, almost everyone who was left at Platinum of any note basically tweeted, "Oh yeah, I haven't been at Platinum in months."
Which means
Platinum's gone.
It feels like it's
basically
gone.
Platinum is over.
He left, and they all just left with him.
Yeah,
and now they're all working on Clovers.
A bunch of the others also went over and made their own thing. Everybody's gone.
I know, which is kind of sad.
Sort
honestly.
of, but it's also there was part of me that was like, Platinum's still around. It feels like maybe Nintendo could still or pull in the right people to keep Bayonetta going if they want to do that or something. But it feels
Can it? I don't know.
Platinum kind of that was the end of
I
that.
mean, I wonder if Bayonetta, it's the end of Bayonetta.
I think Bayonetta 3 was probably the end of Bayonetta.
Yeah, because it didn't sell worth of crap. Even on Switch with the huge install base.
You've reassembled the team to do Okami 2 under modern Capcom auspices. Like, that's probably going to turn out pretty fucking good.
You got the people there to do it.
100%.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this.
Almost 20 years later.
Yeah. When do you think we're going to see this one?
A couple of years, probably.
You think? Yeah, you're right. Like, they don't screw around.
No.
Like, they don't take 5 years
I feel
to
like
make a
this
game.
is probably a late 2026.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me as well. Yep. But anyway, again, it's made by a new studio called Clovers instead of Clover Studios.
Which is basically the old studio, Clover.
Yeah.
Like, it's a nice return.
It is, yeah.
And I can understand Jeff's reaction to this because this
Who would have thought?
There's about 4 different things happening here that no one ever would have thought would happen together. You know,
right.
like I could see, Kami and those guys reforming a company.
Yeah.
I could see Capcom deciding to do Okami 2.
Yeah.
But like the idea that they'd get all that back together and do it again, like that's amazing.
Particularly for
100%.
a game that did not sell very well.
Yeah, this is a class. I mean, it sold very well over the course of like 15
right.
years.
They got their money back eventually.
Putting on different platforms.
Yeah.
And but it's just like the goodwill and how much everybody loves that game in retrospect is like, yeah I think you got to take this shot. And I feel like it's probably not going to sell.
It's a vanity project, but I'm glad that Capcom will do it.
But you know what? Dragon's Dogma 2.
Right.
Sold like crazy.
Yeah.
And I would never have guessed that.
Yeah. For a franchise like this
I
one
was
was
happy
gone for
Dragon's
so long.
Dogma 2 happened, but like to me it felt like you were kind of wasting your money
a little
on
bit,
that.
yeah.
I'm like, look, I love the first one, and I'm like, and now we're going to tell you not to give me another one. But then the thing came out and sold really well, so who knows?
It did, yeah. Sometimes the market surprises us, which is good. Next up, a game that it seems like I'm struggling to figure out who cares about these games anymore. Borderlands 4. People do.
This really didn't look like anything special at all in a way that like kind of shocked me.
Yeah.
Like I was shocked by how nothing this was.
Well, even they finally
it doesn't even look like Borderlands. What happened to the art style?
I'll be honest with you. I was kind of over that art style.
Same, but it's like that's the only thing that made it look like anything.
No, you're right. Like the big hook here is they showed 4 new Vault Hunters, and it takes place on a new planet.
All right. That looks just like the old planet.
No, you're right. Like otherwise, I'm struggling to figure out like why is there a Borderlands 4?
I don't mean because
some people do care.
Momentum.
Like there was the one kid from the Make-A-Wish Foundation who's like has terminal cancer. His one wish was to play Borderlands 4, Matt.
Okay.
Which, I mean, that's great if that's what you really care about. But it did show me that there are some hardcore fans of Borderlands.
Well, I'm sure. But it's like, also, I have a feeling that they thought they were going to be premiering this off a wave of the success of the film.
Maybe. Yeah.
Which
did not work out.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it still does have kind of the art style, but
it's a little bit there.
Toned way
it's
down.
really muted.
Yeah.
And you go back to the originals, and part of that, I guess, the original art style was kind of covering up for the best the graphics could do at the time.
Pretty much, yeah.
You don't really need to do that anymore.
Yep.
But still.
But I don't like the art style. I still don't like it, even though they've tweaked it. It's just, I don't know. It's not attractive.
I just feel like I've done this already. And I haven't even really played all the way through 3, and
I pretty much finished 3.
But beyond like the first one and the second one and the pre-sequel and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, I'm good.
I liked Tiny Tina's more than
I like
Borderlands.
Tiny Tina's way more. Yeah,
I hate to admit it, but that's just the truth.
Like my favorite is still 2.
Yeah,
but like number 2 after that is probably Tiny Tina's.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Borderlands 4, and that is coming next year in 2025 as well. And I think it's just only PC, PS5, and Xbox Series for now.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yep. Next up, Take-Two/2K showed off the first gameplay trailer for Mafia: The Old Country. This is interesting. Mm-hmm. It's set in like the early 1900s, where people fought with switchblades and shotguns
in Sicily.
in Sicily, and it really is kind of a prequel to the Mafia franchise. It shows you how the Mafia was formed.
And the Mafia concept.
Pretty much, yeah. What did you think about this?
I mean, it's hard to really tell anything from this because it's so cinematic. There's not really a lot of gameplay happening. But I liked Mafia 3 well enough. I felt like there was the bones of something really good in there. And it was pretty fearless in terms of tackling kind of like social issues and politics of the time that it was set in. So I'm actually really interested. I like the Mafia games overall. I like what Hangar 13 did with 3. I'm glad they got a chance to make another one. I'm a fan of Hayden Blackman and what he did on Star Wars and what he did in Mafia 3. So like, I'm open to this one. I'm in for this when it comes down to it. Also, I love the old timey cars and that kind of thing. I was also excited about the 1915 Yakuza thing.
Yeah,
because it's like it's just a time period you don't see all that often.
A couple people did mention that they do care about Borderlands 4. Erebus Jones says, "I care. It's FPS Diablo. I want more." Draylock says, I have family in Gearbox, so I care. Totally understandable.
Oh, yeah. Employment is different.
But my friend group kind of splintered, so it more depends on who I am playing with. Yeah, totally got it. Back to Mafia, though. They put out a bunch of information about it. It's a linear, narrative-driven game. That's kind of what you'd expect from Mafia at this point. It's focused on package perfect for fans looking to engross themselves in an unfamiliar world of danger and intrigue. Then they go on a bunch of PR crap about the visuals. It introduces a new original protagonist for players to embody. Enzo's story unfolds in a time when skill with a stiletto blade was a deadly asset. A Lupara sawed-off shotgun was a go-to firearm. Murderous vendettas raged for decades. And mafioso patrolled their protected rackets on foot, horseback, or behind the wheel of turn-of-the-century motor cars. So this is a throwback to like when cars were first invented and you got the Model T and all that kind of stuff. People still riding horses that go faster than the cars.
This is, what, like 4 years after Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's kind of funny to think about. But I guess in Sicily, they were. It was a whole different world. But
this is, Vito Corleone's, parents, basically.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think it looks interesting. I wish we got more games like this. That have these unique settings that aren't just the same old thing all over again. So
yeah, but the problem is when you do that, a lot of times you just end up with nobody paying attention.
Yeah, you lose sales. Yeah, so it's risky, but it didn't seem like the last Mafia sold all that well.
I think it sold okay over time.
Yeah,
but like after the discounts came up. But again, this looks like a pretty big pivot because Mafia 3, and one of its actual problems was it was really open world. It was very open. Like it was just like 4,000 things on a map, almost Assassin's Creed Unity level, like overcrowding, where you like do this one activity like 40 times,
right?
And you're like, I'm not gonna get through all that. I'm sorry. So if this is a really linear, this is kind of sounds like it's going back to how Mafia 1 and 2 were, which was like there's a world, there's an open world, but you are not really running around in it too much. You are driving through it to get to the next story point, and it's a very.
They made a point to say it's a linear game.
Yeah, so this sounds like more like Mafia 1.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, that's true. So that's Mafia: The Old Country, and that is coming next year as well, I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
Next up, The Outer Worlds 2. My dear friend Joe Fielder, who gave me my first break in this industry, is working on this game. He is the lead writer on the game, or one of the lead writers on the game.
Yeah, this looks great.
It really does.
Like I like the first one a lot too, but this looks really good, and the trailer's very good. Obsidian, who brings you the best twos in the industry. Fallout 3 2. That was very funny. Yeah, very good.
What I liked about the first one was that it was an action RPG that didn't take like 50 hours to complete.
Yeah, well now it will.
Now it will.
Yeah.
It's
like,
now it's a sequel.
The size of the last. But again, that's good because I did feel like the last one was a little small.
Yeah.
I feel like it needed a couple more planets, and that seems like to be what they're doing here.
The first one felt almost like a proof of concept in some ways.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it also felt like, if you like, no disrespect intended to Bethesda, but it's like this is like if you had allowed Fallout's humor to evolve.
That's true.
And not just stayed where it was forever.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Outer Worlds, for all the removed from reality aspects of it, felt more like a live and vital and like modern satire of real life, of modern life than Fallout does.
Some of the weapons in this are really cool.
Yeah.
That's what caught my eye in this trailer for sure. They gave us a very brief kind of paragraph. Become friendly with new factions, crush them completely under your very sleek boots, or ignore them completely because you got lost in side quests. Recruit a diverse crew with unique traits, backgrounds, and goals, and help them fulfill their dreams or crush them along the way. You're tasked with uncovering the source of devastating rift threatening the entire galaxy.
And so
pretty simple concept.
I really like the kind of almost turn of the century Jules Verne kind of sci-fi look they go for this, which they're leaning even harder into it in this one than the first one. So if they get this thing out in next year and they get Avowed out. That's a big year for Obsidian.
I would be really surprised if that happens.
They've got the. I mean, these are two different teams.
Yeah, it is, and they are saying 2025, and it's coming on Game Pass as well.
Yeah. So
So
if they put Avowed out in February and this out in like October, like
what a year!
damn, Obsidian.
Hot damn. And it does have
maybe it's time to try Alpha Protocol again. Yeah.
and this does have a whole new setting. It's set in a whole new colony from the first game, so it's not the same kind of areas that you were used to traversing from the first one. So that game looks real good, and I think that's one of the bigger pleasant surprises from the show, as far as like what I thought of it before I saw the first gameplay of it.
I mean, I always didn't really change my opinion of it. I had faith in it, but I was just happy to see it. Like, oh, wow, next year? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
I mean, they actually showed it like back in 2020
Yeah,
or 2021.
we've known it's coming
It's
for
been
a
a
while.
while. Yeah. So
But
it
even the
should be
trailer
ready.
says it took them twice as long to make, 3 times as long to make this one, so it's twice as big. Don't think about it.
That's kind of how it works,
Yeah.
though. Yeah, 3 times as long to make it twice as large. That's kind of how game development works. Next up, something that I know both you and I were very excited by, Virtua Fighter 6. They showed the first footage of it, but
Sorta.
like in a window, and you couldn't really see it.
Yeah,
like,
we didn't really learn a whole lot here. I mean, I'm just like, I'm glad it's happening. We don't really know anything until we get our hands on
Yeah,
it, really.
this is all just bluster. All this
And then
stuff here.
Maximilian Dude did do some streams with the. They were running some streams with the new version of 5.
Oh, really?
After the awards ended.
Yeah, because they released a bunch of media. They had like a big Virtua Fighter blowout event like the next day or that night maybe even, where they showed off a bunch of Virtua Fighter stuff. But unfortunately, this trailer does not give up much. Like, I'll just skip forward ahead so you can see it. But eventually you get to the point where they show like some gameplay in a very
Ready?
small window.
Fight.
Yeah, and you can't really make out much of it, sadly.
Yeah, we're not going to know anything for a while, but at least it's coming.
Yeah. And they haven't called it 6 yet, but they rebranded it with a brand new logo, which is kind of crazy. And here's the only gameplay that you get to see of it right here.
So we got Sarah.
Yeah.
And that looks a lot like Akira. He's fighting like Akira.
The guy with the hat, I mean,
Yeah.
he has the same moves for sure. So we got a little taste of Virtua Fighter 6. They didn't really give any information about when we're going to see it or anything like that, so it's probably a little ways down the road. And then another Sega, and also, by the way, that is being developed by the Yakuza team. What's the name of that studio?
Ryuga Gotoku.
Yeah. And then they showed us another game coming from them called Project Century, which looks like Yakuza set in like 1915.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So is it exploring the origins of the Yakuza?
A little bit. The origins of the Yakuza are actually in post World War II. They come.
Okay.
It comes from. Actually, you've seen Godzilla -1.
Yeah, yeah.
The devastation afterwards, wherever nothing could get through and everything was like. That's where the modern Yakuza arises. Is basically kind of like local gangs protecting locations and getting resources for people. Like that's why the Yakuza have sort of a Robin Hood. Or they like to portray themselves as having sort of
Stealing
a Robin
from the rich,
Hood
giving to the poor.
sort of protecting the area sort of thing, which easily evolves into protection rackets.
Yep.
Obviously. But yeah, this is sort of a similar sort of thing. It's sort of how the organized crime. Again, you're dealing with sort of the chaos of Japan dealing with the influx of Western influence and Western colonialism and imperialism and how that changes the nature of the culture and the we'll see if they get into the kind of the drug trade that was involved at the time, or apparently there's just giants now. I don't like who knows.
Sega has yet to release a
Much more violent.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Way more
I mean,
violent.
obviously you're beating the shit out of people with motorcycles and
Right.
but there's a lot of blood in this.
Oh yeah, it's
that we
way
haven't seen
more
before.
gory. I mean, it also looks like the actual open world is like alive, and
Well,
it's
it looks
like,
very cool. I mean, talk about a setting you don't get very often.
Yeah.
1915 Japan.
yeah. I mean, it's
Like-
the crappy part though is that Sega still has not put this trailer out officially. So you're probably wondering why it looks a little blurry in our show. That's because this is like from the Game Awards stream. Like Sega has not put this out still. The only place you can get it, other than people that ripped it from the show, is from Jeff's YouTube channel, and that's not the best quality.
Yeah.
So eventually we'll get an even better look at this.
I
But
don't know how these guys do this shit. Like these nobody takes a break over there. or
I don't know.
something. Like
I mean, they also make the Monkey Ball game for
Monkey
Switch.
Ball game. Now they're doing Virtua Fighter. I got this. They got the Pirate Yakuza.
And they're doing like
in Hawaii
3
game coming
Yakuza
out.
games as well. It's
Yeah.
really crazy. That shot right there is pretty awesome, though, man. Like, this game really stood out for me visually from a lot of the games that were at the show. But again, it's called Project Century.
So this
Obviously, it's set in the prior century.
Like this is just. I mean, every once in a while they do a Yakuza game in the past. They
Yeah.
did, like Ishin and Kenzan, and now this.
Yeah. Yep. So that game looks good. And then next up, a game called Dispatch. I've been describing this game as The Office cross with Invincible.
Yeah, it reminds me of there's a lot of Invincible in this, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what it was called, but it was a very briefly lived like one or half season sitcom that DC made about an insurance company that insured superhero stuff.
Oh.
That was like an insurance company that handled superhero damage.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember what it was called. But it was a little bit like this. It was like normal, boring office life in a superhero universe.
Yeah. It's a very clever idea. And then
I'd kind of rather watch this show than play this game. Like, I have to admit.
Aaron Paul is the lead in this, and then with Laura Bailey. And that was one of the better moments in the Game Awards. I thought their little stage banter I thought was pretty good. Yeah. But anyway, this is coming from Ad Hoc Studio.
Don't look at me.
Yeah.
What did I tell you about looking at me?
Yep. This is a studio that's working on The Wolf Among Us 2.
Yeah.
And I think they also worked on Life is Strange maybe at a certain point.
Yeah, I think these are all Telltale refugees, basically.
So the pedigree's there. This game should turn out pretty well. Again, it's called Dispatch. No release date for that yet.
Powerless, yes. Thank you, El Guapo. That is what that was. Powerless is what I was thinking of.
El Guapo also says, does RGG ever take breaks? I mean, it is really insane, man.
For sure.
What a machine they are. And their games are good. They're not like shovelware.
And they're like sustainable. That's the thing. It's like, and they've talked about that where it's like, we use the same map all the time. We use the same, it's like, we have all these objects that are already built. We have all these characters that are already built. We
just use them.
It's like central casting.
Yeah.
Like that's how movie studios did it.
It is.
It's how sitcoms used to make 28 episodes a year, 25 episodes a year.
Yep.
I mean, that's just how it goes.
Yep. Now, unfortunately, we're starting to run out of time here. We got to go through this next handful, but these are the smaller games from the show. Next up, Thick as Thieves. It's the new game from Warren Spector. It's a PvPvE multiplayer stealth game set also in the 1910s. That seems to be the era of the Game Awards for whatever reason.
Everybody wants to go 100 years back.
Yeah, basically it's just a competitive stealth game is the best way you can put it. Interesting to see what he's been working on because he hasn't really done new stuff for a while. He worked on the Epic Mickey stuff.
Yep.
Kind of tangentially, but this is his first new game that we've seen in quite a while, but it is a competitive stealth game. Next up, something that hurt my heart a little bit, Turok Origins. It is a new Turok game. At first when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, Turok, that looks awesome.
I thought this was Arc 2.
Oh really? I can see why you would say that.
I thought it was going to pan up and we'd see Vin Diesel.
The funny part is the lead developer on this did an interview yesterday where he said that Turok was the first-person shooter he ever played in his life when he played it on the N64.
Wow. I'm sure that's true of a lot of people.
I'm sure it is. But then he makes it a third-person shooter. He's like, I'm making this to please the people who love Turok on the N64, and it's a third-person cooperative shooter. I feel like this is a franchise that has just been wasted for years now.
Yeah, I mean, that's true of a lot of the Valiant stuff.
I mean, fighting dinosaurs, it's awesome. That's something people want to do. Like,
Capcom.
Seriously.
Except in Exoprimal. We don't want to do it in Exoprimal.
I don't understand why it's so hard to make a good Turok game anymore. I don't get it. Like, it's a no-brainer, I think. But anyway, that's Turok Origins. I don't think we have a release date for that yet. It's coming from Saber Interactive. Next up, a game called Stage Fright. This is like how they described it as Luigi's Mansion meets Overcooked, and it is made by the former Overcooked developers. But watching the trailer, it doesn't seem that way. It almost seems like a cooperative chase game where it's like
it was a little hard to get a feel for this, especially when they cut out to the wide shot of the stage.
Yeah,
but like. I don't know. I like the idea.
Yeah, I do too. It's like you're helping somebody escape in the other split screen by doing things on your side that help them get away.
Yeah, but it's also like very like kind of meta backstage oriented.
Yeah, it kind of breaks the fourth wall a little bit. They broke the fourth wall at the Game Awards actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty clever how they did that.
I think there's room to trust the Overcooked guys.
Yeah, I mean,
people.
Overcooked's great. There's no doubt about it, and unique. And they said that they're borrowing a lot of the elements that made that game popular and bringing it into this. This was one of the more unique, innovative games I think we saw at the Game Awards for sure. But also a little bit like Split Fiction. You know?
There's some of that.
It's got some Haze Light vibe to it, but that's a good thing, in my opinion, as far as at least the game design is concerned. And then just a couple more. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, another Sonic Racing game coming. It's coming to every platform in 2025, even Switch.
Pretty smart to lean back into this, and I think you're going to see a lot. I mean, they did it. They have also announced that there's a Sonic and Tails Transformers coming in I think
That's
June.
awesome.
And Sonic does turn into his his car from Sonic Racing. So I would be shocked if they didn't repaint him into Shadow.
Yeah.
Eventually.
But this teaser is like 10 seconds long, so they didn't show much. But it is coming next year, so it's coming pretty soon, and it's coming to all platforms.
I'm still pretty stunned that they haven't leaned more into this series.
Yeah,
like they're all pretty well regarded.
Yeah, they do very well. And that is coming next year, as I said. Next up, a lot of people maybe didn't even notice this. A game called Rematch.
Yeah,
it is an awesome cell shaded soccer 5-on-5 soccer game from the team that did Sifu.
Yeah, I kept calling.
Who would have ever thought?
I kept calling this Sea Football.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think that's a better title than
it is.
Rematch.
Yeah. This game looks awesome. This is just one of those little small things that they showed, and I was like, what was that? And then I saw the full trailer, and I was like, oh, that looks dope. Again, it's so bizarre that this is from the team that made Sifu, but okay. You think they make Sifu too, but nope, this is what they're making instead.
I mean, they seem to like intricate games of precision combat, and that is what football is.
It kind of is, yeah. Because you're right, you're still having those kind of interactions there. The mano-a-mano interaction still is a part of it. And you're right, that's what they built Sifu on. So, again, it's called Rematch. It is a cel-shaded soccer game, but we don't know the release date for that yet. And then they showed in the pre-show Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which is a 2D side-scrolling Ninja Gaiden game made by the team that made Blasphemous. That's a good match.
Yeah, it's an interesting...
I think that's a good combo. As much as I want to see another Ninja Gaiden 3D game, it doesn't feel like Koei Tecmo is all that interested in it. So, hell yeah. Farm this IP out to other people who know what the hell they're doing. I like Blasphemous a lot. I'm not a big Souls guy. I love the art a lot. It was too hard for me, and I quit after a couple hours. But what I did play and experience, I really enjoyed. I think it's a good match with Ninja Gaiden. So, we'll see. But that was in the pre-show. And then the final game we're going to talk about is so freaking weird. It's a game called Shadow Labyrinth, and it is a Pac-Man game where Pac-Man is almost like your sidekick that floats along beside you.
I think this is somewhat related to the that secret level CG shorts thing, because the Pac-Man in that is also like this.
Yeah,
it's like a crazy
It still has a Pac-Man aesthetic to it too. The level design are like Pac-Man mazes. Where you can attach to the sides of the walls. It's crazy.
Yeah,
this is insane. I can't believe it.
It's always funny to me, however, the idea of reimagining Pac-Man as something really weird, sinister, and creepy is age old. It's always been that way.
It's so weird. This game is so freaking weird. It is called Shadow Labyrinth. It is coming next year, and it is coming to all platforms as well, including Switch. So Pac-Man lives. I don't know if that's the Pac-Man that everybody wants, but Pac-Man lives somehow, some way.
Close enough.
Yeah. And so that was 20 games that I plucked out of all the stuff that they showed. I think we covered pretty much all the important stuff, though.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you have 20 big reveals.
There's anything
actually
else
15
I'm forgetting
really.
about it. So
what'd you say?
If there's anything else I'm forgetting about
it. So it must not have made that big of an impression. But overall, pretty damn good reveals for a Game Awards show. 3 gigantic ones, 8 pretty damn big ones, and the rest, okay, cool. Yeah. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, considering the previous years have basically been one pretty big one or one really big one, and then a bunch of stuff that's kind of fine, and then endless indie shit that no one's ever heard of before or since. Yeah, that's a much better ratio.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to speaking very briefly about the actual award winners. Was there anything that stood out to you where you're like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense?
I thought it was interesting to give Best Original Score to what was basically a cover album, because the Final Fantasy VII music was written 27 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't really disagree. Astrobot did really well, which I certainly support.
Yeah.
They deserve it.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't like Metaphor ReFantazio very much, but of those nominees, I think I would probably give it that.
Can you believe what its Metacritic is? It's 94.
Yeah, I don't.
That's insane.
I don't get it. But
I don't get it either. I mean, I actually liked it a lot more than you did.
Yeah.
But still, a 94. I think it's the highest reviewed game of the year.
I mean, as much as I hate that battle theme, Final Fantasy VII for music over that, that's a little weird to me.
It is a little weird. Yeah.
I like the Bellatra Love. I don't really have any any complaints about the winners that I can think of. I think different things should have been nominated in certain places, but whatever. We've talked about that.
Sorry, I just need to type something real quick. Yeah, there were really no awards that really stood out for me where I was like, what? That's insane. Like, that's crazy. Like, I thought it was probably the best awards that they've done for a while. Like, there is definitely an Asian bent, I feel like, to the awards in general. Even the people that attended, honestly.
Yeah, you do get people from overseas in surprisingly large numbers. It just not in the sense that like, oh, why would you? But it's like that's a long flight. It's an expensive trip for a business to front, because you got to fly people out here and you got to put them up in L.A. and I mean it's not nothing.
Yeah. And
the Black Myth Wukong guys were clearly expecting to win something.
Yeah, because afterwards, and I do wonder if some of that stuff was lost in translation. Some of the things that people were saying he said.
Sort of, I mean, one guy was crying, according to I think Mercante. I do think that winning at Best Action Adventure was a little weird.
How about this moment where Ken Kutaragi thought he was going to get up and go on stage, and they're
That
like,
was
no,
pretty
they're
funny.
like, no, bro, you're not going up there. You're just
No, we're just saying you're here. Wow.
That's so awkward.
Oh.
Yeah. But overall, I think that the awards.
Not since we made the most beautiful thing in the world. Please don't criticize it. Have I ever been so embarrassed for Ken?
Overall, I thought the awards, there is nothing outside the realm of reason. And the last couple of years, there's been a couple where I was like, what? But not really this year. I can understand why games were chosen.
For the most part, I can't think of. I called most of the winners before they happened, just because not because they were my picks, but because I was like, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, who else are you gonna pick other than Football Club? Who else are you gonna pick other than this? So, I mean, obviously, I didn't know who was gonna win Best Content Creator or Best Esports Player or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know who those people are. But like, like the winners were again. I have questions about some of the nominee lists, but I don't really have any questions about the winners, other than I really think Black Myth Wukong was a pretty mediocre game.
Me too.
I don't really.
That's the only game that stood out for me through all, not just the Game Awards, but just the end of year awards in general.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Like, there was somebody on Twitter that was like, Astrobot won Game of the Year over this, and they posted the
did
the opening, opening where he's against like all the giant gods and stuff,
right?
And then someone retweeted and was just like, there are 7 seconds of gameplay in this entire clip. And it's like, yeah, like
there you go.
What do you at least show an actual fight,
right?
From the game,
Yeah. Well, anyway, there you go. Those are our impressions of the Game Awards 2024. Letter grade, I give it like an A, borderline A+.
I think A. I'm gonna give it a B+.
Okay.
I would give it an A- if they hadn't given an award to a Tencent executive.
Okay. I can understand that.
I feel like that
a little bit of a deal breaker.
That really poisoned the well for me
I can
in a
see
bunch
that.
of ways. Because I know they knew what was happening there because they left out his job in the bio thing. So I'm like,
yeah.
If they hadn't done, if all it had been like a little like, hey, our heart goes out to the people that need this thing. We acknowledge that that's a problem and we need to figure that out. And this hadn't given any award. I do think that the idea of a Game Changer award every year is a good idea.
Yeah.
That's
the best one they could find, though.
Starting.
I feel like there's someone who works in like accessibility or
gotta
something.
Be something.
That, like,
anything.
Who like the guy who invented like the Xbox accessibility controller?
Yeah, there's a wide. I mean, it doesn't have to. Obviously, it's not going to be this every year.
Yeah.
But that is just a really, really kind of mortifying to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that they ran an AI game trailer is ridiculous.
Daniel Lenaud says as an award show D, as a trailers reveal show A+. Erebus Jones says C+. So. The award sucked. I'm not massively excited about many of the announcements. Erebus. Squishy Muffin says B+. Yeah. All around the same area that we're talking. So there you go.
I feel like we're on the cusp of getting an A- from me at some point. Next year, maybe the year after.
Yeah.
See what we get.
I think I have a different perspective because I worked on the Spike VGAs for like 7 years. Mm-hmm. So I can see like how far this show has come compared to the VGAs.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's still
not perfect.
Not there.
Yeah. Pretty close though, I think.
Getting there. Also, I don't know. I just don't care about all these weird musical acts. Like, I mean, I like having the orchestra there and
playing
the game
music,
and having that dude who's the weird dude playing all the woodwinds or whatever. I'm glad he's become a character.
Yeah.
But like bringing on these random bands,
It's like,
is
why?
just like, well, I mean, it's because Jeff wants to meet them.
That, and I
Like,
think
it's
he
like-
just wants to be able to say 21 Pilots to get the more casual
Sure.
fans to show up.
Sort of, but a lot of it's, it's like, were you bringing in a lot of eyeballs with Imagine Dragons back in the day? Really?
Probably not.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like at least Snoop Dogg is related to games in a way that like has some tangibility to it. Although again, having him as a presenter, I think makes a lot more sense than having him perform.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, there you go. That's the Game Awards 2024. We just have one thing left to do in our last episode of GameFace for 2024, and that is the last thing that we do every year in the last episode of GameFace.
Try to take over the world.
Yeah, that, and then we talk about our fantasy leagues. So we have 2 fantasy leagues for those of you guys maybe who aren't kind of dialed into the Sifted mythos, as it were. We have 2 fantasy leagues. There's a fantasy league that Matt and I play against each other head to head, where we pick 10 games and 2 alternates and their Metacritic scores. We add them up at the end of the year. The highest score wins. And then we have another thing that we do called the Sifted Fantasy Challenge. And that's something that you guys participate in with Matt and I. Now, Matt and I can't win that. We just play along for fun. But the winner of that, if you are a patron, you get 2 free games if you win that. If you're a non-patron, you get 1 free game. And so we're going to give you the results of that as well. And that's really interesting to look at, and we'll get a look at that. But first, we get a look at Matt and I's. And here are the results of the 2024 Sifted Video Game Fantasy League. And it ended up being pretty close, honestly. But ultimately, I won. And I have now won 3 years in a row, and I have won 4 out of the last 5 years of the Sifted Video Game Fantasy League. So I'm going to give myself a round of applause for that. I never thought I would ever win 3 years in a row, because every year it's tight like this. It comes down to it being very, very close. And you can see it ended up being a total of 20 points was the difference when it was all said and done. Really close year, Matt. Anything stand out to you looking at this?
Not really. I mean,
there's a couple scores.
I wish I'd picked something that didn't come out, so I would have gotten Helldivers 2 in.
Right, yeah.
Because my alternates got a higher score than most of my team.
Yeah.
Actually, the whole team other than 2.
Yep.
Like, Helldivers 2 would have been tied for my second highest score.
Yeah. I don't think anyone saw
no one
Helldivers
saw
2
that
coming.
No way
Yeah.
to do that. And, you got your 92, you got another 80, enough to make up for the fact that your Skull and Bones was 59.
Well, look at my second alternate.
Second alternate is
saved me,
85.
basically.
Yeah.
It was one of my highest scores. Frostpunk 2 was one of my highest scores. And I think that's really what was the difference.
Yep.
That I got to use that second alternate with that high score.
Like, if Stalker had been really, really good,
Yeah.
I would have. If Stalker had been in the 90s, I would have been more competitive.
Yeah. I mean, it was still very competitive, man. We were 20
And
points
I
apart.
picked Vision as a mana. Like, that was a bad move. I mean, 75 for Visions of Mana is one of the
That's
most
insane.
generous. What the hell are you
It's
even
freaking
thinking about?
insane. I mean, you got lucky there, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that was like a 5 or whatever. But I got lucky in a couple instances, too.
I thought Skull and Bones was way better than Visions of Mana, if I'm
I
being
agree.
honest.
Yeah, Skull and Bones was rated too low. I feel like there was some kind of a weird backlash for that. But there was there was one game that I thought was overscored for me. I can't remember which one it was now, though. Plucky Squire was the one that I thought was
Squire
too.
should
Yeah,
be
so I got
number
hooked up
3.
with
That's
Plucky
great.
Squire for sure. But that's the way it goes. You get
Yeah.
hooked up for one, you get screwed on another.
There's a few of mine that I think should have been higher. Like, I think Banishers was better than that. I think Tales of Kanzara was better than that. I think Pacific Drive was better than that.
I think Princess Peach overscored, though. I think you got a little bit more than you deserved there. But that's how it works. Like, it all ends up working out in the mosh eventually. Microsoft Flight Sim ended up not doing anywhere near as well as I thought.
that was a shocker to
I
me.
thought it would do in the 90s.
That was like that was one of the only ones you picked that I was like, oh, I wish I'd gotten that one. But then in the end, not really. Both our 4 picks were the exact same score.
Yeah. So I eked out a victory 3 in a
And
row.
our 5th picks were the exact same score. And then the next pick is the exact same score.
It's crazy. That is kind of bizarre, actually. What the hell? But anyway, good game, Matt. Another great season of the Sifted Fantasy League. I was definitely engaged with this all along because I knew it was close all along. I mean, it literally came down to the Stalker 2 review at the
It was
end.
the last game. It was Stalker 2 versus Flight Simulator.
Yeah.
And I told you at one point, I'm like, you basically, I was like, if Stalker has to get like a 94, or there's no way I can beat you.
Yeah.
And Flight Simulator has to get like a 70.
Yeah.
And that was it. And ironically, Flight Simulator I actually did have a shot if Stalker had rated better.
You did.
Like
That's what it came down to in the
end. If Flight
end.
Sim had gotten the reviews that the last one got, I would have had no chance. There would have been no way to catch you. But there actually was a chance if Stalker 2 had delivered a little harder.
Yep, good game, brother. Another close one, but I have won 3 in a row. I can't believe that because there's just so much variance. I've just been lucky. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, because anything can happen to totally screw all these things up. So anyway, I am the champion of the SIFTD Video Game Fantasy League for 2024. Now, let's take a look at the SIFTD Fantasy Challenge for 2024, and the winner is Tomb Raiders. Congratulations, Tomb Raiders. And here's the thing. The people who scored really high on this are the people who had Metaphor. There are like 4 people.
I didn't.
In the entire thing. And there are hundreds of entries in this. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. 4 people in this entire thing put Metaphor on their team. And consequently, all 4 of them are the top 4 finishers. Because it scored a 94, which is insane that game got a 94. But look, so Tomb Raiders had it 3rd. He had it 3rd.
Because they're weighted. Yeah.
Right. And the way it works, there's a multiplier for each one. And since he had it so high, that's what put him over the top. But Matt, look at you, brother. You finished with 1265. You only lost by 31 points.
Yeah. Imagine if I put Final Fantasy first.
Right. Seriously. So you had a really good showing, man. Great job. But ultimately, it is Tomb Raiders who is the winner. Congratulations. Send me a DM on SIFTD or on Twitter, wherever. You know how to get at me. And we'll start coordinating, getting you your prizing. Congratulations for winning. That is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's like our 9th or 8th year of the Fantasy Challenge. And we'll be back next year to do it. Oh, it's way down. I always aim for the stars with this. Where am I? There I am. Yeah. 61st, which isn't, I guess, that terrible. But yeah, you can see I had one. Actually, I think all my games came out.
Hollow Knight, Silk.
Oh, Hollow Knight. That's what killed me. If it had come out, I still wouldn't have won. It's not going to happen. So anyway, there you go. There are the winners of our fantasy leagues, both Matt and I, and the SIFTD Fantasy Challenge. We will do the Fantasy Challenge again next year. However, we're going to make some tweaks to the prizing. Typically, I give away games, and it's really... And I'm going to find out here again as I go through this process in January with Tomb Raiders. It is really hard to give games to people who do not live in America. Last year, the winner was in Australia, and it was a nightmare trying to get him his prizing. I ultimately just wired him money to buy the games.
Yeah.
I tried for weeks and weeks to find a way to buy him an Amazon gift card, to find a way to buy him a PSN gift card. None of that stuff works across territories. So it was either I wire him the money or I buy games here in the U.S. and then ship them by hand. I would have spent like $100 just on shipping them to him. I was just like, I guess I'll just wire you money so you can buy them yourself. But it turned into this huge, horrible process. And we're going to avoid that after this year. So the prizing is going to be something different for next year. It's not going to be free games. We'll talk about that when we get there. But congratulations to Tomb Raiders. Thanks to everybody who played. Again, you can see there's hundreds of you guys that played. And hopefully next year we'll have just as many. And I'll do a little better. I don't think I've ever finished higher than like 40th or something. But we can't win. So I'm just like, I'm going to pick all the big games.
I got pretty high ones. And I got like 2nd or 3rd
really?
or something one year.
I didn't remember that.
I was way up there one year.
7th is pretty damn good.
To the point where you had to remind everyone that if one of us won,
that's
we
right,
don't get
actually.
a prize.
That is right. I remember that now that you mention it. Well, people, that's it for GameFace for 2024. I just want to thank all you guys. Let me get the chat back up here so I can see what you guys are saying. I just want to thank all you guys for your support this year. Our streams of GameFace grew huge during the year, as far as like the total number of unique viewers that would watch each episode. Like we had a couple episodes where we had over like 1,100 unique people watching the show, which is great. So thanks to all of you guys. And a lot of that is like you guys sharing the show on social media or you guys retweeting our tweet that we send out before the show launches. All that stuff adds up and it all makes a difference. That's why I ask you guys, even if you don't have any money, to just review the show or like the show or share it on social media, because all that stuff matters. All that pin action matters. It all makes a difference. So I want to thank you guys for anyone. If you've done anything to help SIFTD or GameFace or Pactor Factor or whatever this year, thank you. It all makes a difference, and I appreciate all of it so much. Axum, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime right here at the end. In fact, if you guys want to get in your Twitch Primes here at the end, that'd be awesome, so I can thank you guys in person. JM Rain, thank you for gifting all these tier 1 subs at the end of the last show. Thanks. Silkshake brings up, thank you for, some of you guys have been giving me codes for Name That Game to give away to our users. Thank you if you've done that. There's so many ways that you can help us, and it's awesome that you guys have found ways to do it, even ways that I haven't come up with. So it's just really been awesome. We have a really great community. I love all you guys and girls very much. All the people that show up to our show every Tuesday that make the show better, all of it is just incredible. So thanks to everybody. We really appreciate you guys very much. Now, don't forget, we're going to break down here and finish off this GameFace. We're going to take 4 or 5 minutes to set everything up for our Game of the Year awards, and we're going to come right back. We're not even taking the stream down. We're going to leave it up. We're going to give you guys some Christmas music. And if you feel charitable and in the holiday spirit, why not give us a donation while you're doing that at donate.sifted.net while we wait for the show to start. And of course, before we go, I'd be an idiot to not mention that we're supported 100% at patreon.com/sifted. $4 a month gets you all our content early. $2 a month gets you Pactor Factor early, but you can also get it early if you just subscribe with Twitch Prime and our Twitch channel, and that's free for you if you're an Amazon Prime member. Again, there's so many ways you can help us, and we appreciate all of it. So again, don't forget, we're going to break down here for a couple minutes, and we're going to come right back with our Game of the Year awards. Thanks again to everybody who has supported us in any way this year. GameFace is up and out.